Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very accomplished professional from San Francisco, USA, Charis Santillie. Charis, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Charis is a life balance and a transition coach, and she's a podcaster and hosts a show which is titled Charis Your Life. So, Charis, before we talk about coaching, tell me about your story of the hot air balloon incident and how it dramatically changed your life.
Yes. So the very short little backstory to that before I tell about that is that I grew up in a very entrepreneurial household. My parents built a business from scratch that started in our kitchen. Very high achieving parents that I modeled after. So I went after all of those accolades I could as a child as well. Had a really beautiful, idealistic childhood. So to set the stage. And then I went off to college, came home after my freshman year, and we were celebrating my dad's 50th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And I was about to turn 19. And this was back in 1994.
Mm-hmm.
And we went for a hot air balloon ride. And it was a beautiful ride. Something went terribly wrong when we came into land. And we had a crash landing. And the very short version, I have longer versions where people can know more details if you're interested. But the very short version is that my father suffered a broken neck, became paralyzed, and my mother turned to alcohol to cope with her feelings and pain and all the changes and things that started happening. And I turned to busyness, workaholic, went on that side of things. So we all had our different ways of coping with this tragedy because it really just completely flipped our lives upside down. And but that's what happened, and that was nearly 30 years ago. And that actually is what led me to become a life coach, because over time, through therapy and then an introduction to a life coach, I found a lot of healing, and ultimately, that's what led me to become a coach myself.
Wow, what an amazing story. And what were some of your learnings from this amazing internal crisis that you and your family faced?
So, when I look back on it, I can really see my dad was the one who was physically paralyzed, but my mom and I were emotionally paralyzed. And a lot of people, when they're going through any big life incident like this, whether it be a big trauma like we experienced or life transitions, whether they're chosen transitions, somebody deciding to sell a business like I know you've done before, or whether it's a business being taken from them, like what happened to my parents actually in the aftermath, or life transitions of relationships or changes, or just wanting to change how your life is functioning, kind of that midlife change that a lot of people experience, or even quarter life, or, these different transitions we go through. A lot of us, and a lot of you out there, I'm sure, that are listening can relate to this, where you've seen people, or maybe you yourself have become emotionally paralyzed, meaning, you couldn't quite cope with all the feelings coming up, and it would get you stuck in certain areas of your life, maybe not in everything, but in certain ways. And we take on these other coping mechanisms. And for me, it was very much work, head down, stay busy, and go after things, chase things. Don't slow down too much, and that definitely caught up with me over time. So that would be one of the lessons. Another is to really, I think that it's really important to feel our feelings. It's really important to not just bury them with, whether it be work or like my mom with alcohol, or, whatever it is that we turn to. It is, if we don't allow ourselves to feel our feelings and process that energy, then it will come back and bite us in one way or another, whether it is in the extreme case of taking, like it took my mom's life ultimately over many years of that as her coping mechanism. And for me, took a physical and a mental toll until I finally was like, okay, something's got to change. But I think that part of what I personally learned was it's never too late to make changes. And it's never too late to craft, create, design, curate the life that you dream of. And how you can actually, it's possible to actually have enjoyment in the now and not constantly be chasing and seeking some future moment, future if then, if this, then I'll be happy. If that, it is truly possible, because I did it for myself and I help clients do it now, to find ways to be satisfied and content and more at peace right now.
Very well.
Yeah.
Very well said. Thank you for sharing this. So moving on, Charis, when I was reading about you, there's also a term called fearless living. Help me understand what this means to you and how it impacts the work you do.
So my coach training and certification is as a certified fearless living coach and a certified fearless trainer. Okay. And fearless living is at the root of everything that I do. I've learned other modalities and things that I sprinkle in and weave together with it, but that is really the foundation. And it is a phenomenal framework and that was created by my coach many years ago. It is very much based in neuroscience, and there's a lot to it that really now I see it all. There's a lot of simple exercises and simple solutions, and yet underneath it all is a very advanced understanding of how the brain works. Thanks to Rhonda learning all of that and being very much a geek when it came to learning about neuroscience and things along the way. Right. So it is a way of living and a way to change your life. I mean, truly. And it's a way, but ultimately a way of living. And it is phenomenal. Now it almost makes it sound like to live without fear. And that's not the case. It's really to learn how to master fear, to learn how to live with fear and have it not be having the driver's seat, be in the driver's seat of your life. And it's really a remarkable foundation. So that is what fearless living is. Amazing. In relation to my life.
Amazing. And there is also the term positive intelligence, and you talk about the foundational principles of foundational intelligence. What are these principles? How do they contribute to life balance?
Yeah, so positive intelligence is another modality, and I think, and also has roots in neuroscience. And I love to weave the fearless living and positive intelligence together. And ultimately, like the foundation of fearless living, you've got fear is not just the things we think of with fear of snakes, fear of heights, those typical things. Fear comes up in why we are avoiding having a difficult conversation, or why we get a little agitated when we see a text from a certain person, and we don't want to respond, or why we get disappointed about something. Like fear is very sneaky and weaves its way into our lives. So ultimately there's living in fear, and the flip side of that, and the constant thing to aim for, is how to move over into freedom. So fear versus freedom, and living a life full of freedom is the goal and what we practice each day. And in positive intelligence, the terms are used as saboteurs versus our sage. Same concept. Saboteurs on the fear side, sage is on the freedom side. And the saboteurs are literally, you can almost think of them as kind of the village of voices in your head, the things that take over, the hyperachiever, the hyper rational, the hyper vigilant, the people pleaser, the stickler, these parts of us that, when taken to an unhealthy degree, keep us from living a really wonderful life. So those are the really, really rudimentary way of kind of giving you the nuts and bolts of some of those frameworks. But how that relates to life balance, one of the things that I believe in and say is that life balance is not really about managing your time. It's more about managing how you feel. So with these frameworks provide a lot of ways to understand yourself, understand what you're feeling, understand how to process it, move through it, understand other people, understand so much more about life, and actually make changes so that you can feel more balanced internally. So it's really an inside job, and it's about an alignment of body, mind, heart, and whatever you want to refer to, soul or intuition or your higher self or your gut. But that alignment is that constant thing that we work toward each day, and we go in and out of it. And what will feel aligned and balanced to me one day will be different than another day, and it'll definitely be different than what will feel balanced to you. But that's a little bit about those modalities and a little bit about how I see balance.
Well said. My next question to you, Charis, is that, given all the work that you do with so many business owners, what, in your view, are some of the common challenges you see business owners face when they are in their midlife stage?
I think that it's very common for people to reach that age and start realizing, at least the people that I end up working with and that resonate with me, that, and some of you out there watching or listening may be able to relate to this. You get to a point where you're like, wow, the external stuff, I've accomplished a lot, but boy, I thought I'd feel a little differently now, or a lot different. I thought I'd feel a little more content and satisfied with my life. Why do I not feel, like the inside, how I feel isn't matching my outer life. Like my life looks pretty good.
Yeah.
And so it's this, wow, I've got a lot of years left to live. How do I change how I feel? Because I don't want to feel this way forever. And realizing that those external achievements don't bring lasting satisfaction. They don't bring contentment that actually gives you peace of mind. It's these fleeting moments of this adrenaline rush of accomplish this thing, and now I got I just raised the bar on myself, and I got to go achieve this next thing and this next thing and this next thing. And the people that end up working with me are people who are realizing that they're tired of that. It's not that they don't want to keep accomplishing things. We're still go-getters.
Yeah.
But they want to figure out how to feel better in the process and have it not maybe carry as much weight and power over their life, so that they don't want to get to the end of the line and then be one of those people who regrets that they overworked.
Great response. Thank you. There's also the concept of busy to balanced and beyond. And I just love the way you have packaged in so much in these small phrases, and there's so much behind this thinking. Tell me about the concept of busy to balanced and beyond.
So busy to balanced by itself is the name of a program that I have, an online course, a group program. But the and beyond is kind of helping that whole phrase together is how I feel, what I do, kind of a summary of who I help and how I help. Because I've got people who are coming to me that are in that stage that we kind of just discussed, wanting to switch. They're kind of feeling like busy and they're wanting to feel more balanced. So busy to balanced. And then the and beyond is, well, it's this, first of all, it's a constant practice. There's no finish line of balance. We don't you can't just check that off and say, oh, I'm balanced now, I'm going to stay here forever. It doesn't work that way. It's not a destination. So it's this constant practice. So that's beyond it's going to be constant forever. And then there's also an aspect that I've started working with some people later in their journey, later in their business journey too, who, like, for instance, have exited their business, selling their business, retiring, or moving on to another adventure. And so they've kind of got a sense of balance. They've made some changes in their life, but they want to, they're moving into this new transition. So I also look look to that as being another aspect of the beyond. So it
Mm.
kind of there's multiple meanings in there for
I
me.
agree. I agree. And what, in your view, are some of the actionable steps some people could take to move from being busy to balanced?
I think that one of the biggest things is to learn to trust yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the ways to do that is to really practice quieting
Mm.
your mind, quieting those saboteurs, quieting
Yeah.
the fear that is getting in the way. And one of the simplest things I'll pull into that is something from positive intelligence, which is
Mm.
referred to as PQ reps,
Mm-hmm.
which is focusing on one sense for at least 20 seconds, just one of your senses: sight,
Mm-hmm.
sound, smell, taste, feeling. Touch and sound and sight are some of the easier ones to kind of to practice the most. But
Mm.
when you focus on one sense for at least 20 seconds, like hyper focus on it, where you zone everything else out. You shut your eyes if it's safe to do so, and you only listen, and you listen for the furthest sound, and you listen for the
Mm.
closest sound. You see if you can hear your own breath, or you rub two fingers together so you can
Mm-hmm.
feel your fingerprints, and you shut your
Right.
eyes so you can feel that.
Mm.
But that kind of intensity of focus, that is one very simple, very actionable thing you can do to settle your nervous system, quiet your mind, quiet the sabotaging voices, quiet the fears, and be able to like get off the little hamster wheel and bring your system back into more of a balanced
Mm-hmm.
moment so that you can
Mm.
then decide what the next best step is that you need to take in your
Well
life, or
said.
take care of yourself, or
Mm.
do right in that moment.
Very well said. Very well said. Thank you. My next question is that, you also talk about living life on your own terms. What does this mean to you?
This is learning. It's almost unlearning,
Mm-hmm.
actually.
Okay.
Unlearning what culture has taught us, what
Mm-hmm.
our society or culture that we've been raised in has taught us.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases, unlearning what we've learned in school or in families or in certain experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and figuring out what is actually working for us. Because I know a lot of people, myself included, that tried to go after a life that seemed like the one I was told I was supposed to have.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it didn't bring me the feelings that I thought that I could or should or deserved to experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so figuring out what would bring me joy, and
Mm-hmm.
realizing that it doesn't have to make sense and look like how it looks for you or for
Mm-hmm.
others,
Yep.
that has been a huge key. And so for me, it's very much about giving myself permission to change my life and figure out what suits me, and literally trust myself
Mm-hmm.
to choose what lights me up and get rid of the things that deplete me, and keep
Mm-hmm.
choosing more of what lights me up, and keep getting rid of the things that deplete me, and more of
Mm-hmm.
what lights me up. And then the more I
Yep.
do that, that's living life on my
Very well.
terms,
Yep.
and it's a better life.
Well said. But again, based on the work that you do, how can our viewers and listeners really identify what their own terms are? And what is the impact societal pressure has on setting your own terms?
Well, it's huge. It can be huge.
Mm.
It can be one of the pressure around us can keep us from even exploring this.
Mm.
And so it can continue to keep us from that.
Yeah.
I think that one of the biggest things is to find support, whether that be a coach, somebody like me that
Mm.
can help you to figure out what that means for you. Because I'll tell you from my own personal experience too, it was hard to do on my own.
Mm.
I did need to get support. And I coaching was a huge aspect for that. Therapy in certain times of my life, and
Mm.
also definitely coaching.
Right.
Um, and I think that the more you can do to learn to trust yourself and be able to, again, quiet your mind that is just going a million miles an hour and be able to listen to the whisper that comes up that is your gut, your intuition, your higher self, your connection with spirit, whatever you want to refer to that. The more you can do that, the more you can discover what your terms are. But again, that's often really challenging on your own.
Absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with getting some
No, I
support.
agree. And, completely agree with you, so those of you who are listening to this, if you do need any kind of help, do reach out to Charis through LinkedIn. You can find her very easily. So Charis, I have time for two more questions for you. My next question is, how does achieving balance impact overall life satisfaction? How does achieving balance impact overall life satisfaction?
Well, when you look at it in the way I described it earlier, the balance, because the illusion of balance of where we've got like this perfect equation of a life of so many hours a week you work out and so many hours a week you spend with your kids and so many, that I think is a bunch of hooey. Like it's not, it's an illusion. It's you're going to just chase and I do not believe that is something to go after. And I tried, but the balance that I was talking about, I think that achieving that is being able to tune into your inner compass. It's being able to literally feel better more of your days. If you feel better more of your days, your life is more satisfying.
Right.
So, I mean, fundamentally, that is what I help people with. And what I work on every day with myself is like, what do I need to feel better and continue to do that or go for that? And then if I notice myself a little off balance, what do I need? What do I need right now? So, and then you just feel, again, it sounds so simple. It sounds so simple, but it's all about feeling better.
Right. Well said. And my last question to you, for a lot of the people who will be listening to us, what is the one piece of advice you would give to someone currently struggling with work-life balance?
I would say the first thing you can do is look at what you say you value right now, what you think your top core values are, and then look at how you're spending your time. And you're probably going to find a disconnect. If you feel there's any struggle at all, if that resonated, if that question even resonates with you, then that's just a sign that you do have some stuff going on inside of you. And there's a conflict in your life because what you say and feel values to you, those things don't match how you're living your life and or how you're feeling. There's some things going on that are not in alignment. And so it's first to just be aware. The first step is awareness. The first step is just to be aware and say, yep, I do want to make some changes. I don't know what's going to look like. Interestingly enough, sometimes it doesn't even mean that a lot of stuff has to change on the outside.
Right.
But just awareness. And then the second is, how willing are you to change? How willing are you to go get some help or make a change? Those are the first two things that you need to look for and check in with, and then see what you want to do about it.
Very well said. Charis, and on that note, and your amazing pieces of advice, first one which came through so strongly and powerfully throughout our conversation was the need to trust yourself. I think that is such a powerful communication that you are giving to all our viewers and listeners. Second, you said was that be aware and see, look at what your core values are and see how you are spending your time, and you'll see some dissonance. And then the third one you said was, see if there is a willingness to be able to, or to be to really want to make a change. Thank you so much for speaking to me about your own amazing journey. Thank you for sharing your own amazing story. the lessons that you learned from that story. Thank you also for talking to me about fearless living, positive intelligence, and busy to balanced. Thank you again, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.